want to feel like there's home somewhere. You don't want to feel like you're this lost in the dark. And you're like, well, shit, where do I go? That's why I look for the light. And then once I go to the light, I see the truth. Because where the light shines, the truth is as bright as the day bleeds. And then you see, wow, this is it. This is enlightenment. It's to be enlightened. When you are in the presence of the light, you become one with the truth because you're in presence with the truth. What's up, everyone? Nate Sarantino here, back with another episode of the Free Thinkers Emergence podcast. And today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite topics and something that I came up with all on my own. And this is the 3 planes of life. So first, I'll tell you what they are. There's a physical plane, a mental plane, and a spiritual plane. Now, you have multiple, sometimes I refer to them as different bodies you have, or the more often planes of life. Most importantly, each plane builds on top of one another. I like to think of them as a pyramid, and this is exactly how I describe them in my course. And I really just wanted to go over what they are so everyone knows this. This is very important information because if you actually want to excel as a person, as a soul, as a being, you need to excel in each of these planes of life. You can't just excel in one or you won't be a complete and whole and balanced being, which is the ultimate goal. The biggest flex you can have in your life is that of true balance. Balance that other people wish they had. The balance of family and friends and career and work and freedom to do whatever you want. You need to have the balance. And when you're actually providing value to the world around you, life is going to get a little hectic. You're going to start doing more and more, and you're going to have to find where that balance lies. Well, let's start with the physical plane and having a balanced physical body. What does it all mean? To begin, your body is built on, I like to say, meat and fruit. I personally have tried 2 main diets, one being vegetarian, pescatarian, and the other being animal-based. I love the animal-based. I've been on it for, practically speaking, 2-3 years, and I have been thriving since I got on it. Now, my gut and microbiome is very healthy. I drink a lot of kombucha. I drink kefir, eat lots of yogurt, all good probiotic substances, which I'm talking about. That's taking care of your microbiome, which you have more bacteria cells than human cells. So, of course, you have to take care of that microbiome. That makes up more of you than you make up of you. You are a living ecosystem in that physical plane where you are. Just as the earth is an ecosystem, so is your body, where you have bacteria living on your skin and inside of you. Everything that touches you goes inside of you, and everything inside of you comes out of you. And it's just a big ecosystem. You're connected to everything around you, and you need to put the right things in you if you want to get the right things out of you in the form of performance and in your health and wellness. You can't perform in any way if you are putting garbage into your body. It's basically that simple. Let me let this clock go, and then we'll continue. So, when you start eating healthier, you start eating organically, and just because something says it's organic doesn't mean it's actually organic. There's different levels to organic food. Organic doesn't even mean organic at this point. And when you do some research on what the USDA actually classifies as organic for each individual fruit and vegetable and product, you'll start to realize that just because something says it's organic doesn't mean it's entirely organic. You can buy a bag of organic mango from Target, and only like something like I believe it's 2/3 or 3/4 of it has to be organic, and the other third or quarter can be inorganic. As so long as like the majority is organic, it's can be called organic. And I've experienced the difference in the quality of organics by getting dried mango from Target versus Trader Joe's versus Whole Foods. And I try all these different brands and I'm like, wow, some of this has inorganic mango in it. Inorganic mango that's dried tastes a little sour compared to the sweet tanginess of the organic mango. Something you get by tasting and trying a lot of it. You become a connoisseur. You're able to actually figure out what tastes like what. So, this is very important to the physical body. Not just a mango example, but the whole what you eat is what you are. So, you want to figure out what you're actually getting out of your meat, out of your eggs, out of your proteins of any kind, out of your probiotics, and out of all that fruit and everything. It's all so important. It's really hard to get real non-GMO fruit in today's world, especially since we have genetically modified so many things. And this is one of those things I believe I have to do more research on, and I think everyone should. At this point, like, you can't really get non-GMO strawberries, and that's just the first example that comes to my mind. Like, they're all polyploids, which you keep, like, making them bigger and bigger, and it's just, like, selective breeding of, cats and dogs. So, what am I getting at? Like, do your research, figure out what works for your body, and it's a little trial and error, and there's also tests that you can figure out what things you need based on the bacteria in your colon. There's these random things you can go down these rabbit holes to figure out what works for you without doing all the trial and error. I figured out trial and error wise, and animal-based is what works for me. And that's where the bottom of the pyramid, the bottom tier, lies. Next, we go into the mental tier, where you have your mental body, the mental plane of life. This is where the mind meets the body in the way you see the world around you, the way you work with the world around you, and the way you start to be a little mindful of what you're doing and why you're doing it. These 3 things are what built my course: mentality, mindset, and mindfulness. It's all about the mental plane of life, and I do a lot more spiritual plane in it too. However, let me stick to the mental for now. So you have this mental plane, and you need to have the ability to make it through challenges and obstacles without having to rely on other people too much. It's all right to ask for help once in a while. As they say, nothing great has ever been built alone. So, of course, you're going to need a team to do really good work. But every team is only as strong as its weakest link. Meaning, you don't want to be that weakest link. You want to be the strongest in your team. And the best teams are those where nobody knows who's the boss. Nobody knows who the person in charge is, because everyone is so good at their job and so specialized to the point where we all are our own peak of it, human excellence, personal excellence. And that happens by building mental fortitude, by pushing yourself physically in this physical plane. The gym is the best example of how to do this. Exercise, in whether that be a sport or lifting weights or whatever it might be. You just have to push yourself and keep pushing, and don't ever stop pushing yourself. You have to push limits in order to grow. We are limitless beings. We have unlimited potential, the ability to do anything. And I literally mean anything. Your mind is your biggest asset. Use it wisely, and you can create or curate whatever it is that you desire. Life comes down to mindset, and most importantly, perspective. Having the right perspective on whatever situation will determine your outcome more than your performance alone. If you believe something will work out for you, you're about 95% of the way there. And then the other 5% is just doing the work. Most people don't even show up. So if you just show up and expect things to work out for you and then actually do some of the work, and maybe you even do all of the work, you literally can't fail. And if you do fail, maybe it wasn't meant to be. That's the kind of life I live. I go 100+% in everything I do. And if it doesn't work out, I'm just like, well, shit. Maybe this wasn't meant to be. I'll give it a few tries, and if I really don't feel it, like, my intuition's so good at this point. I know, like, almost immediately if something's meant for me or not, just by the sound of it, and when it hits my brain waves, it's just like yes or no immediately. Like, God speaks to me in that way. So, I hope you too can develop that sense of intuition and the ability to really figure out what is for you and what is, for the people around you, for your brothers, for your sisters. Anyways, this all goes back to this mental plane. It's the plane where you determine what makes you a better person through the mindsets that you adopt. I like to live life by 3 main things: be fearless, limitless, and unstoppable. If you can't fear death, and at the end of the day, if you don't fear death, you basically have nothing to worry about, because I often think maybe one of the worst things anyone could ever have to go through is living forever. Like, you can't die. What if that was your curse? Then what would you do? Yeah, that's a tough one, because then you have to experience everything. There's no get out of jail free card. When I say jail, it's like life. Like, life is a gift, and life is a state of heaven or hell, depending on how you perceive it to be. Any situation can be flipped completely upside down, whether you want it to be the complete opposite, like in negative or positive. It's just light or dark. It's very black and white in my mind. I just see everything as on and off switches, like ones and zeros. The simulation, like, I see that. I see what it could be. I see what it is. So these are the mindsets that make up mentality, or these are the mindsets that make up this mental plane. And there's so many different laws, like the Hermetic principles, and even further, there's other ones. Well, these all are the keys to building this mental plane and being able to use your mental plane to make the physical plane easier, so you can grow more physically and then in turn grow more mentally. And this brings us perfectly to the top of the pyramid, the last tier, the highest of high, the spiritual plane. And here you start to align all your actions and your thoughts, beliefs, values with those exact things. a code of some sort, some kind of decision-making process. Why do you do the things you do? What makes you be who you are? It's innate almost. It's something like authenticity. They say authenticity is the highest vibration. Well, what does it even mean to be authentic? It means to be yourself. But how can you be yourself? What if you don't even know what you are? Who you are? That's where you study yourself. And this is where you realize you're more than your physical body. You're a soul. You're an endless and infinite being. You're eternal. And if that's the case, if you only have existed since the date you were born, and then you're like, but that doesn't seem right. There's no way this is my first time doing all this. Like, I feel like it's just too easy. And then you're like, maybe I've done this before. And you start to think, what is reincarnation? Is that real? Like, is it possible that I came here, died, and then came back? And why would I come back? Do I want to come back? And then you're like, well, maybe I want to come back if heaven and hell are actually states of mind and I can create life on earth into a living heaven. And then you realize, what even is this? Like, why are we here? This whole spiritual journey you're going to go on developing your beliefs and your values. I don't really tell anyone what to believe besides to believe in the truth. And when someone's telling you the truth, you can tell, like me talking to you right now. And it's a very heart-to-heart conversation, but it's very enlightened at the time, or at the same time. I'm showing you are on a spiritual path, and it starts with your physical body and making that healthier and helping that grow. And then you start growing mentally, and then you start growing spiritually. But first you have to have those other two pretty solid to really grow spiritually. You can grow spiritually without having the physical too dialed in and the mental too dialed in. But if you're dialed physically and then you dial down mentally, and the things that do this, animal-based diet, organic, and then probiotics for physical, mental, fearless, limitless, and unstoppable. And make sure you understand that perspective is everything. Put yourself in as many perspectives as possible to see every situation from as many sides as possible. There's an infinite amount of perspectives to everything because every single particle has its own perspective. There's an infinite amount of particles at this point. So there's an infinite amount of perspectives you can look at every situation from. So choose which one works best for you at any given time. And at the highest level, you will always take accountability for your actions and for what's going on, even if you know it wasn't your fault, because that's what we do when we are actually at the highest level. So, you're on a spiritual journey now. You're aligned with your core values and beliefs. You're aligned with the things that make you say, damn, I'm going to get out of bed and go help some people today. Or I'm going to get out of bed and I'm going to create something today. I'm going to curate something today. I'm going to be that person who gives this thing a second chance. I'm going to take this piece of paper and turn it into a work of art with nothing but this ballpoint pen. That's what people do when they go on their spiritual journey. They start drawing, they start writing, they start creating a story for themselves. They start creating their soul's journey. And this is one of those things where you realize you are in charge of your own life. No one can tell you what to do or how to do it. You have to figure these things out for yourself. You have to choose who you want to listen to and who you don't want to listen to. And you have to understand that death is not the end and that you are a spiritual being. You are a soul that's looking for a place to feel at home. You want to feel like there's home somewhere. You don't want to feel like you're this lost in the dark. and you're like, well, shit, where do I go? That's why I look for the light. And then once I go to the light, I see the truth, because where the light shines, the truth is as bright as the day bleeds. And then you see, wow, this is it. This is enlightenment. It's to be enlightened. When you are in the presence of the light, you become one with the truth because you're in presence with the truth. That's life. That's the spiritual journey. You go from the physical body and low consciousness, the very, very low of the low. I mean, it starts at the vibration of the earth at the Schumann resonance, 7.83 hertz. It's increasing, they say. I'm not sure. I haven't, measured the frequency of the earth very often, but that's what it is. And now you go up and you go through all these different frequencies, from the low vibrations of the solfeggio frequencies up to the frequency of nature at 432. And then you move up further and further into higher consciousness, eventually getting to 963 hertz, where you're one with the universe. You're one with the creator, the one that many of us call God or Allah or Jehovah, whatever you want to call the creator. The creator's the creator. And then you realize that, wow, I have a divine purpose. And when you're at that 963 hertz, you have all this alignment of your energy levels, also known as chakras. These are the things that you align with as you start developing your body in the physical, and then in the mental, and then in the spiritual. There's energy levels to it within you. And the more alignment you have, the more energy you have, the higher your vibration becomes, and the more powerful and the more impact you can create on the world around you. There's so much more I could add. However, I think this is a perfect amount for people to get a grasp on what these three planes of life are. With that said, quick summary. You have the physical, animal-based diet, fruit and meat, lots of dairy. I prefer raw dairy. Not lots, but I drink raw dairy when I can get it. Raw milk is great. And probiotics, just make sure you have good bacteria. And then you get some honey, some maple syrup. Make sure there's no glyphosate in it. And then move into your mental plane. Be fearless, limitless, and unstoppable. And make sure you understand your perspective, other people's perspectives, and you just keep going around and seeing like, okay, this is how they see the world. This is how they see the world. Now you're starting to pick up what I'm putting down. And then you move to the spiritual world, and now you realize everything is connected. And I went through the brief chakra system and these frequencies, and everything's connected and everything vibrates at this atomic level. And there's a ether of energy that connects everything, and there's all this energy that creates everything. Everything is energy that's always in movement. It's always being transferred from one thing to another. Sometimes it's even shared. And you know what? That's great, because sometimes you need to share stuff. With all this being said, eventually you're gonna get further and further to the light. When you start getting up there and you really get up close with the light, you start to see your truth, and most importantly, you see the truth. The truth can be scary at first, but it is truly the only thing that will set you free. With that, my name is Nate Sarantino, and this was the Free Thinkers Emergence Podcast. I can fly.